for 3 centuries. That is not in dispute. Opinions as to how or why it came about may be, but he knows and I know that unless he holds the money supply, inflation will mount again. But he knows and I know that if he goes on spending money at the rate the government is at the moment, that it has to borrow the amount it has to at the moment, that his interest rates will be very, very high indeed, and that industry itself will be in very considerable trouble, which it already is. That is not the way in which to get productivity going. But he knows equally that the real problem we face today is we've lived through quite a long period now of increasing trade union power. That period, I think, has been characterized by a series of what I would call package deals between governments and unions, in which governments have been offered certain advantages in return for certain cooperation. The trouble has been that the advantages tend to have been permanent and enshrined in legislation, and the cooperation only temporary. In fact, the package deals got unpacked, and that happened even with some of ours, as there are a number of advantages to the unions in the Industrial Relations Act. Those persisted, and a good deal of the restraints, in fact, were abolished by the present government. And it's been a very, very unequal situation. Added to this, during that time, a time of mounting power to the trade unions, it's also been a period when we've had increasing left-wing militancy in control of the unions. So just at the time when we had... Oh, yes, we have. Oh, yes, we have, and the country knows it. The country knows it, the Right Honourable Gentleman, the Member for Huyton knows it. Prime Minister knows it, and the people who are there in the unions, in the rank and file of the unions, know it too. So just at a time...
Order! Order! The Right Honourable Lady is not giving way, and the Honourable Gentleman must resume his seat. Mrs. Thatcher. Oh.
The Right Honourable Lady understand that she must be in a debate of this importance, specific to the dispute at issue, much more so than apparently she wishes to do, and that the characteristic of this dispute is that the rank and file have been balloting all the way through the piece, and it is only now that the leadership of the Transport and General Workers Union has come in to make it official and take a hand in it. That is the realities of the situation, and her arguments are pure fantasy.
The Honourable Gentleman suffers from the fact that I understand him perfectly. He knows as well as I do that perhaps one of the reasons why this strike was made official was because it was already out of control. Already out of control because of the mounting left-wing structure of that union. We've been through a period when we've had increasing trade union power. They've had unique power, and unique power requires unique responsibility. That responsibility has not been forthcoming, and therefore we are in the position in which this country finds itself today, about which there can be, in fact, no dispute. Now, we have already had a good deal of comment and argument between the two sides about the very vexed matter of picketing, which is playing an enormous part during these particular strikes. Now, the Home Secretary had a go yesterday. Now, he had said two things with which I want to quarrel straight away. I don't like quarrelling with the Home Secretary, but he does give one a lot of opportunities in some of the things he says. He said first that apart from one difference in the law, which the government side brought in, the law on picketing has remained the same. And the difference which he said, which the government side brought in, is that you cannot now picket at a person's home. That was not brought in by the Labour Party. It was brought in by the Industrial Relations Act. It was in the 74 Act, but it was not an improvement or greater protection to people in their homes brought in by the government party. It was brought in by the Conservative Party in the 71 Act, and was one of those things which, in fact, they retained. So he was wrong on that. He also said, I have no power to instruct chief constables in their duties. He has power to send round a circular to chief constables. He has power. Does he not remember the occasion when we've had debates in emergencies before, when his right honourable friend, the present Secretary of State for Education, debating with my right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, then now the right honourable member for Chipping Barnet, when she said this: "That is why I welcome, but regard as very late indeed, that was my right honourable friend's circular to chief constables, which was sent out last Friday evening, giving advice on what steps they should take." Of course, and the Home Secretary should be giving advice on the present grievous picketing.
I have no power to instruct chief constables. That is what I said yesterday, and I repeat it, and the right honourable lady is wrong.
Will he, in fact, give the chief constables advice through a circular? And why has he? And why has he not? And why has he not done so already? He has power to give advice in a circular, and he should, in view of the seriousness of the situation, already be doing it. We on this side of the House would take the view that it is far better to take emergency powers early rather than leave it until the situation has escalated. That is the practice which we took. The emergency powers were usually taken comparatively early. The negotiations with industry now should have been completed on what regulations it would be necessary to add to the corpus that is already there, ready and waiting under the Emergency Powers Act of 1920. I doubt whether these steps have been taken, and I think that is why he is not bringing in emergency powers as it is now. There's no need, when you've got them in, suddenly to use the army. They are there if the contingency plans have all been properly made. Now may I continue on the law on picketing. Apart from the one change to which he referred, which we made, he's quite right in saying that the law on the nature of picketing has not changed for a very long time. And the best exposition which I know on that, and it's not for me to lay down what it is or what it isn't, is an exposition given by the Attorney General during our time, then Peter Rawlinson, now the noble Lord Rawlinson, at a speech in September 1972. He went into it in language which is so simple that one wouldn't have thought a lawyer could have written it. And it really sets out the position. It really does set out the position very well indeed on the nature of picketing, which he points out. The only right is that of peaceful persuasion. There's no right to stop a vehicle. There is no right to threaten loss of a union card. There is no right to intimidate. There is no right to obstruct, and numbers themselves can be intimidating. What he also did in that speech was to point out what few other people have pointed out, that each and every person in this country has a right to go about his daily work or pleasure free from interference by anyone else. That right is not being exerted or exercised at the present moment. He also pointed out, and I quote, "The right to proceed about one's lawful business is not in any way subordinate to the right of peacefully persuading. This has always been the case. So the right of a person to do as he wishes should be upheld by the police and by this government." But now we find that the place is practically being run by strikers' committees, and that they're using language such as they are allowing access to food, they are allowing certain lorries to go through. They have no right to prevent them from going through. They have no right to stop it, and they should look to the government and all the agencies of government. Lorry drivers should look to the government and all the agencies of government to protect their right, first, not to stop if they don't wish it, and secondly, to go through to the docks or anywhere else with their loads.